Under the 1975 Irish Government Strategy for Energy Extraction, the state would have held a 50% shareholding in any oil or gas discovery, and the extracting company would have had to pay royalties of at least 8%, as well as tax at a rate of 50%. In 1985, government ministers began eroding the share the state had in its own resources. The culmination of their efforts mean that currently, multinational exploration companies own 100% of the oil and gas they find under Irish waters. They pay no royalties on it. No country in the world gives as favourable terms to the oil companies as Ireland. The Irish government has cut healthcare and education, introduced new taxes and increased austerity, and now expects the Irish people to watch as billions of euro will flow from under Irish waters straight into the economies of other countries.
That amount of gas and oil, which are estimates provided by the oil companies themselves, detailed estimates, could pay off our national debt 5 times over. Why are you giving these resources away to private multinational companies when our nation is being beggared?
I'm not sure how Deputy Boyd Barrett has determined that there are 180 billion barrels of oil there. I actually believe, Deputy Boyd Barrett, that there is a great deal that government can do here for the country. And if it's possible to determine whether there be fines of either reserves of oil or gas, the question afterwards, of course, has to take into account environmental sensitivity, exceptional licensing requirements, and a determination whether there be a value in following up the development of whether it be whatever kind of well it might be. But as you're aware, the state and government can make a judgment in respect of the value to the state coming from any fine to be determined, and that's an issue that is central to Minister Rabbitt's policy here.
Deputy Boyd Barrett, Taoiseach, the estimates are from the oil companies themselves, and I brought a little file for you which I'll hand over to you afterwards, which details the oil company estimates.
They gave away our gas, they gave away our oil, Bernie tried to give away our forests, now it's the water. They want to privatise the water now. We're going to air we breathe next.
There's nobody thinks water that comes out of your tap is free, and I've yet to meet anybody who doesn't agree that there's some serious investment needed in the system, right? The problem is this, is that when you go through the numbers, it turns out that the total amount of money the government expects to get by charging households for water is more or less the same amount as it costs to get that money in the first place. So it's a bit like the government forcing everybody to hire a man with a shovel to dig a hole in their front garden and then fill it in again, and do that every year at a cost of €160 a go. There's 539 million spent on the water meters so far that we know. The number could go up, right? So over $500 million just on the meters, the installation of the meters. You got to build call centres. You got to fill those call centres with staff. You got to heat those call centres. You got to print a load of letters. You got to send those letters out. You got to have teams of consultants and computer people and lawyers. You got to have debt collectors. You got to be able to bring people to court. You got to have people in vans driving around fixing meters, checking meters, reading meters. There's not a single cent or a single euro that anybody is going to pay or is being asked to pay that's actually going to go into the water system. So even if it was free, which it isn't free, you still didn't need to do it.
I could ask the Minister what contingencies his department is taking for the mass non-payment, or the possibility of mass non-payment of water charges. What plans are in place to increase funding from the state to Irish Water in that circumstance? If an assessment has been carried out on the impact of that on the Eurostat market test.
Section 4 of the Water Services Act 2014 provides that where a customer has not paid any water charges within a period of 12 months after the issuing of the first demand and is not entered into or is not complying with a payment plan with Irish Water, a late payment fee shall be charged by Irish Water for each year that the charge remains unpaid. Further legislation will be brought forward by the Government, which will contain a range of measures to ensure that Irish Water will be in a position to recover charges from customers who have not paid bills.
Thank you. Deputy Paul Murphy.
Thank you. The answer was no, is it? A very large proportion of people out there are going to refuse to pay. They don't agree with the water charges. They see them for what they are, and they understand that mass non-payment is the central tactic that is going to sink Irish water and defeat the water charges. It makes sense for people to say, OK, we'll join this boycott. We know that no penalties apply until after the next general election. In the context of a general election, this will be the dominant issue, and any government that comes in will be under massive pressure to withdraw the penalties, but also to withdraw the charges. But just to repeat, have you not done analysis, or are you not doing an analysis? I mean, will Irish Water fail the test if 30% don't pay, 40% don't pay, 50% don't pay?
Minister.
The plan that we have announced, the Irish people will work with us on this plan. We're very confident of that. I didn't see you down in Killarney last weekend. I was pretty disappointed. Maybe you were outside, but we couldn't see you in the 400 or 500 people that were there. I also think you've got a very mixed view of who should be paying for water. I ask you a question. Have you met with the National Group Schemes of Ireland? Have you gone to Callow and Mayo, where there was 1,200, or indeed over to the Erne Valley in Cavan, or Clare Morris in Kerry, where there's 1,250 homes on group schemes? And why aren't you protesting outside their homes and outside their schemes for the fact that they have been paying for water for many years? Or do you need me to give you directions past the red cow?
Thank you, Deputy Paul Murphy.
Thanks a lot. But perhaps I should remind the Minister that his party stood in the last general election on a platform of opposing water charges. So any criticisms that he can make about the need to have water charges will rebound on him, on his previous position. Our position is clear. We're for the right of everybody to have free and quality water. That's everybody. Perhaps the Labour Party conference went to your head. I mean, I understand there was a motion from your branch celebrating the best, well, I think you spoke about one of the best governments ever, and a motion celebrating your role as Minister for the Environment. And you're just completely disconnected from the reality that exists out there with those couple of hundred people in a room in Killarney all slapping each other on the back in what is, it's going to be a wake. I mean, you're going to be wiped out partly as a result of the water charges. Have you seriously not considered the possibility that serious numbers will refuse to pay, and what kind of crisis that causes for Irish water?
Thank you.
I also like the fact that you're electorally predicting the demise of many different groups, including my own party, 14 months out. That shows a level of arrogance. Why do you not oppose people in this country paying for water in group schemes?